What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, a question swirling around the Lions organization dating back to even this past offseason is whether or not the Detroit Lions are going to trade Matthew Stafford. Are they going to get rid of the older, guy that hasn't won a playoff game, that hasn't been able to lead the Detroit Lions to much playoff success in order to acquire a young, upcoming talent coming out of college football that's playing at the top of their game, on a rookie contract and, try to get some more playoff success without Matthew Stafford being a part of this organization. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Today I want to go over the question, is it time to move on from Matthew Stafford? And, who could be his successor potentially? So if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes 2 seconds out of your day to make mine, and I would be very, very appreciative to everybody that does so. But with that being said, let's get into talking about whether or not it is time to move on from Matthew Stafford. Now, before we do get in the video and people yell at me, I am a fan of Matthew Stafford. I love him. He's my favorite quarterback in the NFL. He's my favorite player in the NFL. He is the quarterback to my favorite NFL franchise. And whether he is traded at later today or whether he retires a decade from now as the Detroit Lions, quarterback, I will be sad to see him go no matter when it happens, no matter how it happens. And, I'd never want to see Matthew Stafford go, but unfortunately, one day he is. One day he will not be the Detroit Lions quarterback any longer, and we will have to look into the future. But is that time now? Is this upcoming season, this coming off season, this upcoming draft, the right time to replace Matthew Stafford? Well, first, let's talk about maybe some reasons that, people are thinking we might get rid of Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford is a 32-year-old quarterback, so he is on the wrong side of 30. His contract expires after the 2022 season, where he will be 35. And the last couple of years, he's had some injuries. I believe he broke a couple fingers a couple years ago, and last year he obviously missed 8 games with a very bad back injury. Now, Matthew Stafford has been hit more than any quarterback, in their first however many years in NFL history. I mean, this guy gets hit at a historically bad rate, and eventually his body is going to break down, and we as fans don't know how much longer Matthew Stafford is going to be able to stay healthy and play football, because after a while, all those hits are going to add up, and honestly, it can't be too much longer before he starts breaking down a little bit and isn't quite as durable and isn't quite as available as he has been throughout his entire career. What could we get from Matthew Stafford if we did decide to trade him in a hypothetical situation? What could we receive in return for a guy like Matthew Stafford? Well, the last big quarterback trade that I can remember was the Sam Bradford trade, where the Minnesota Vikings traded for Sam Bradford after Teddy Bridgewater had a very, very bad ACL injury. And in that trade, the Minnesota Vikings gave up their first-round pick and a fourth-round pick to acquire Sam Bradford. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that Matthew Stafford is a much better quarterback than Sam Bradford. They're both former first overall picks, but Matthew Stafford has accomplished much more in his career than Sam Bradford ever did. So I think that it would not be unrealistic to say that Matthew Stafford nets us a first-round pick at least, and probably a third-round pick, if not a second-round pick, because Matthew Stafford is still playing at a very high level, which we will talk about in a second. He's accomplished so much more in his career than Sam Bradford. He is a much better quarterback than Sam Bradford ever was, and, I think we're going to get it, if we do trade for him, we have to get at least that, if not more. As I said, the reason we want to trade, or the reason that people are talking about trading Matthew Stafford, is more because of his age and his durability more than his playing. Because Matthew Stafford last year was playing at an elite level, and he was actually having one of the most efficient years of his career before he went down with a back injury. Last year, Matthew Stafford ranked second in yards per pass attempt at 8.6, second in yards per completion at 13.6, second in passing yards per game with 312.4. His quarterback rating, was very good across the board. Against man coverage, his quarterback rating was 78.5, which ranked 5th in the NFL. Against zone coverage, his QBR was 77.6, which ranked 3rd in the NFL. And against the blitz, his QBR was 87.4, which ranked 4th in the NFL. Now, that's all very good, very impressive numbers. However, Matthew Stafford had to do this without, his wide receivers giving him a ton of help as far as separation. Matthew Stafford was, statistically the most aggressive quarterback in the NFL last year. What that means to be an aggressive quarterback is that when you throw the ball, when the wide receiver catches the ball, the defender is 1 yard or less away. So the guy is right on top of you, and it's a very tight window to make it in. 23.5% of Matthew Stafford's pass attempts last year were aggressive, where the wide receivers had less than 1 yard of separation, and he still put up those numbers. He still put up 312 yards a game. Still, averaged 13.6% 13.6 yards for completion. I mean, this guy was throwing it down the field against, tight man coverage, tight zone coverage, and doing it very efficiently, having a very high QBR and a very good completion percentage while not throwing a lot of interceptions. He was on pace to throw 10 interceptions, which would have been a career low, and he would have thrown, if he had stayed on pace, he would have thrown 40 touchdowns, which would have been the second most in his career. That's all well and good, but as I said, eventually the Detroit Lions are going to need to move on from Matthew Stafford. No matter how well he's playing, nobody plays forever, and recently, in recent years, we've seen big, named quarterbacks that have been in an organization for over a decade move on from their franchise quarterback. We saw it with Tom Brady this offseason. We saw it with Cam Newton this offseason. We saw it with Phillip Rivers this offseason. Eli Manning just retired. There have been a lot of big name quarterbacks that have been in the NFL for a very long time that are currently on new teams or not in the NFL anymore. Matthew Stafford being on the wrong side of 30 is, he's not going to play that much longer, maybe 5-6 more years, but I don't see Matthew Stafford playing into his 40s just because of all the hits he's taken throughout his career. So is it time to draft a quarterback? Even if they don't play right away, even if we don't get rid of Matthew Stafford till his contract's up in 2022, is it time to draft a quarterback in this upcoming offseason, in this upcoming draft? Is it time to get that guy, let him sit behind Matthew Stafford like Patrick Mahomes did, like Aaron Rodgers did, like Tom Brady did? Is it time to do that, let a quarterback mature on the bench, learn some things from a veteran in Matthew Stafford, and then when that contract is up or when we trade him away on the last year of his contract, we can throw him in and have confidence that he is groomed. He's not a rookie. He's not going to make rookie mistakes. He's learned behind a very good veteran NFL player. And, he's going to have that Patrick Mahomes season. He's going to have that Lamar Jackson season. He's going to have that Aaron Rodgers season that, takes us to the playoffs, wins us playoff games, and hopefully puts us in the Super Bowl. I think so. I think that this draft is the perfect time to draft a quarterback in the first round or even the second round. A quarterback very highly that we can put on the bench, have him sit behind Matthew Stafford for a couple years, and then when it is his time to take over, he takes over. He takes over the NFL, not just the Detroit Lions. He is an MVP caliber talent. I mean, this guy leads the Detroit Lions to playoff games and maybe Super Bowls. You never know, but I do think it is time to draft the successor to Matthew Stafford. I say that because this quarterback class is loaded. You got guys at the top end like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields who are going to go in the top 10. So if the Detroit Lions are not good next year, if Matthew Stafford gets hurt again, you can always draft one of them. You can always draft a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence who is going to be a home run. You don't know for sure, but based on everything we've seen, they're competitors. They like winning. They love winning, and they're going to do everything in their power to do so. And, I think they're going to be home runs. I think whoever gets Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence is going to be a successful franchise for the next 2 decades. But even outside of that, if the Detroit Lions have a very average season, if they go 500, they're still going to have the opportunity to get guys like they're still going to have an opportunity to get guys like Jamie Newman, the quarterback out of Georgia, like Trey Lance, the quarterback out of North Dakota State, like Kyle Trask, the quarterback from Florida, Sam Ehlinger, Kellen Mond, KJ Costello, all guys that are going to be there, later into the first round, if not even the second or third round. So they're going to have an opportunity to get a very good quarterback in this NFL draft, and I think they should. I think that they need to, do something they have never done before. The Detroit Lions have never been in a situation where they have a great quarterback, they draft his successor with a lot of talent, but, maybe has a couple things to iron out, let him sit on the bench, learn behind that veteran quarterback, that great player for the franchise, and then that veteran, that legend of the team leaves, and the new player takes over and, leads the team into future success. Now, we saw this a couple years ago with Patrick Mahomes. We saw this when Aaron Rodgers was drafted. We even saw this a little bit when Lamar Jackson was drafted. He sat behind Joe Flacco for half the season and then was good enough to take over. But, all these quarterbacks are young. They're on a rookie contract and they are Super Bowl contenders. Their teams are Super Bowl contenders or were Super Bowl contenders in Aaron Rodgers' case. I can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere around 45% of teams that win playoff games or have won playoff games since 2011 have been teams with rookie quarterbacks or quarterbacks on rookie contracts. So, and very few teams actually win playoff games with quarterbacks on, top 10 contracts, which Matthew Stafford is no longer on a top 10 contract, but he's, right outside that on it. He's on a very big deal. So I think it is time to draft his successor. I think it is time to, get a guy with all the upside in the world, maybe has a couple flaws here and there that we can iron out in a year or two on the bench, but then we still have that guy for, 2 or 3 years on his rookie contract where we can put weapons around him. We can give him a defense. We can give him, weapons and offensive line, something we never gave Matthew Stafford. And you could say, what's going to change? But Sheila Ford Hamp is the new owner. She says she's going to do everything in her power to run a successful franchise. And hopefully she's learned from her mother and her father and, learned that you got to make big moves. You got to put weapons around your quarterback. You got to give your quarterback a defense and a run game and an offensive line. And if your quarterback's on a rookie contract, that frees up all of that more money to bring in those weapons, to bring in that offensive line to protect your quarterback. And hopefully Sheila Hamp has learned from the mistakes of her predecessors and is going to bring in weapons and, pieces around our young quarterback to help him succeed and help us win a Super Bowl. But with that being said, that is my opinion. I think the Detroit Lions, I think it is time to draft Matthew Stafford's successor. I don't think we should move on from him quite yet. I think we let him play out the rest of his contract, teach a young quarterback how to play in the NFL. And then, with a year left of his contract in the 2022 season, if we feel like our quarterback is ready, another team is desperate for a quarterback, whether because of injury or because they just don't have one, middle of the season, we could get a first-round pick out of that Matthew Stafford and, have our young quarterback took over halfway through the season like Lamar Jackson did. Hopefully, do very similar things to Lamar, go on to win an MVP, go on to lead his team to playoff wins and put us in a Super Bowl window. But that is what I think is, the best case scenario for the Detroit Lions. I do think it's time to draft Matthew Stafford's successor, even though the tenure for Matthew Stafford is not quite over in the Detroit Lions. So let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments down below. Do you think it's time to draft Matthew Stafford's successor? Do you think it's time to move on after this season, or do you think we rock with Matthew Stafford for another 5+ years? Let me know down in the comments below. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I'll obviously make a video letting everybody know. There was news coming out yesterday that DeAndre Swift had officially signed his rookie contract, so our second-round pick is officially signed. That is great news for the Detroit Lions, but, it was the holiday, 4th of July. I didn't want to make a video because I was busy. I was busy spending time with my family and having a good time. So, I hope everybody had a great 4th of July, but with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, as I said, I will make a video letting everybody know. But until then, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments below what you think the Detroit Lions should do and what you think they're going to do. But with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching this video, and I will see all of you in the video tomorrow. Bye, guys.